Does the public ever agree on anything?
Hardly.
Our disagreements can range from simple things.
Is the dress blue and black?
No way, it's white and gold.
To incredibly divisive topics such as religious freedom.
Gun control and vaccines.
And one of the most dreaded and controversial topics. You know it.
Politics.
This is especially true with regard to the voting process. Wouldn't it be great if we could just trust the system?
Yes, but wouldn't it be better if we didn't have to trust anyone?
Yes. Some blockchain systems are built using a process called zero trust.
Why is it called zero trust?
There's a difference between trusting and knowing. This is a method you do not need to trust in order to be sure. It's an approach that uses math to create a system that no person can falsify or change. Not the developer who wrote the program, not the person controlling the data, not the news media, and not the politicians. It's built on facts, not on trust.
Yeah, you don't have to trust that 1 + 1 = 2. It just is.
Correct. That's why our team has developed a voting method based on the zero trust method.
Introducing a patented zero trust voting method called validated voting systems.
By using cryptographic processes, such as unique hash functions and other asymmetric algorithms, everyone's vote will be safe and secure without the possibility of fraud.
And even more importantly, everyone will be able to verify that their vote counts.
Hi, my name is Sam.
And my name is Susan.
And we'll both be your guide to show you the 8 steps on how the system works and can provide election results based on facts and not trust.
Before the voting process begins, a list of public keys are published and sealed with a hash function, which is a short, unique set of characters that matches the precise data that was published, so it cannot be changed. We also publish a hash function of half of one of the private keys to be used later by the voter to validate the envelope. Each of these public keys is an integral part of every envelope delivered to the voters. This is done so that the number of voting envelopes and their content cannot be changed by anyone. Each key that is published is registered to a specific voting region so that issues can be dealt with locally. Let's first look at Step 1, the voting period. Each registered voter is able to cast their vote with a unique voter envelope in one of 2 ways. A, at a local voting location. B, or delivered by an official courier messenger. At each voter location, these VVS envelopes are secured in an area where only one person at a time can receive their envelope. Each person is first verified to vote via their voter ID, then videotaped and documented that they received an envelope. Each person's voter ID number is then recorded into the system as having taken a single random envelope. This prevents any possible double delivery of envelopes, as the system will not allow this to occur. We will see later that this process protects against double voting in a way that does not require anyone to trust the system. When taking the envelope, a voter can validate the envelope by scanning the codes with an app that compares his or her keys to those that were published. Any party or person can develop an application like this, since the information needed for validating the envelope was publicly published. If the envelope is not valid, they will receive another one. This prevents the occurrence of fake envelopes, as the voter will be able to self-validate them. After taking an envelope, they then have the choice to go to a private area within the voting facility to cast their vote on a computer screen, or take their envelope to vote in the privacy of their own home. Inside each envelope will have QR codes that hold a unique code of characters and numbers called private and public keys. These keys are not linked to any private information. This allows the voter's privacy to be protected and to remain anonymous. In order to vote, the voter scans his QR codes that contain his private and public keys and then selects his vote. The vote is cryptographically signed and written. In order to avoid issues of someone being socially pressured to vote a certain way, a voter can request a fictitious voting result from a specifically profiled envelope. This envelope can be requested from the voting committee to help the voter avoid being scrutinized by others.
Step 2 is disqualification of remaining envelopes. Let's imagine that 25,000 sealed envelopes are delivered to an official voting location. In the end, only 24,000 are used by the voters. So, what is done with all the remaining 1,000 unused envelopes? These unused envelopes are scanned and registered as disqualified by the official local voting branch. This will later be publicly published together with the votes. This means that the 1,000 of disqualified unused envelopes plus the 24,000 envelopes that were documented and registered as having been received by the voter must always equal the 25,000 that were delivered to this county. This calculation will never change. By using a zero trust method, we know that there were 25,000 delivered envelopes, 24,000 were documented and registered as having been received by the voters, and 1,000 were disqualified. It's simple math. Yet, let's say that 100 of the 1,000 unused envelopes are stolen. This would now leave 900 remaining to be disqualified at the end of the voting period. Now, if we add the 900 remaining envelopes plus the 24,000 envelopes that were documented and registered as having been provided by the voting authorities, the total would change to 24,900. This will not equal the total of the 25,000 envelopes that were delivered. The voting authorities will then be alerted to this and take immediate action.
Step 3 is publish period number 1. After the election is over, the official election committee announces to the news media that the voting period has been completed and can now be validated. The publishing of this data is done in 3 distinct parts. First, they'll publish all the votes signed with both the voters' private keys and corresponding public keys. This data does not contain any personal information. The election committee can then publish either publicly or directly to the representatives of each party the list of all the documented people who took the voter envelopes. To protect the individual's privacy, this data does not contain confidential information on who voted for who, as the committee does not have this data. Each voter can type his ID and birth date and see whether he is counted as having received an envelope. Lastly, the election committee will finally publish a hash function code, which is a short, unique set of characters that matches the precise data that was published. This ensures that any change in the data after publishing the vote will cause a mismatch in the signature, thus preventing any fraud. With all this above information that is published, every individual can verify their vote using their public QR code key during the validation period.
Now for step 4, the validation period. After the committee publishes the results, this data cannot be changed. During this validation period, voters can go online to verify that their votes were accurately registered to their candidates using any developed system that verifies the published encryptions. Since our process is fully transparent, verification of these votes can be done by any person by using the published public data that is available to all. Each voter can then feel secure that the system works.
Step 5 is the complaint and correction period. So what happens if that same person sees that their vote doesn't match the way that they really voted? This is where the complaint and correction period comes in. Let's explain how this is done. First, after the votes are published, if any person sees that their vote doesn't match, they go to the voting committee and voice their complaint using the 2 special complaint keys. The voter's complaint is then documented for future verification purposes. The committee then provides their private half key to the voter. With the 2 halves, plus the matching public key, the voter can now initiate the invalidation of the fraudulent vote and put in their correction. After the correct vote is registered, this new record will override the previous invalidated vote. Yet, for security, the original first vote will still be kept on record. Lastly, after the complaint period is over, this new vote will then be published at a second and final publishing date. As each complaint is recorded and documented as a potential fraud, if there is a large percentage of complaints, the committee will then evaluate whether or not the votes in their area should be completely recasted.
Now for step 6, publish period number 2. The election committee now publishes all the corrected data in addition to the previously published data. As before, this data will include the digital signatures that match the second public key. This data is also sealed with a unique cryptographic hash function code.
Step 7 is the final complaint period. After the second published period, people can still complain about the corrected data that was published. If a person is saying his vote was changed, but not by him, the committee will also need to show proof that will demonstrate that the documented complaint was done by the voter. Otherwise, we will know that there was fraud committed.
The last step in the validated voting system is publishing the final results. And now lastly, the final data and results are then published and the winning candidates are declared.
Now let's summarize the above 8 steps. They are: 1. The voting period. 2. Disqualification of unused envelopes. 3. Publishing of votes. 4. Validation period. 5. Complaint and correction period. 6. Second publishing period. 7. Last complaint period. 8. And the final results. So, how does this process help our average citizen? By using a zero-trust model, voters won't need to trust anyone or any system due to each step being verified and validated. In our next video, we'll visit some of our friends to see firsthand how this all comes together.